Remember, folks, if it ain't weird, it ain't here. We are the Weird Boys.
Oh, we are 100% professionals.
Try to be the first one in the building.
Ooh, something haunted. Let me go.
Look at that creepy thing over there. Let's go find it.
Did something move over there? Yep. Well, we're going that way. It's kind of our thing.
I'm Ryan. I am joined by Kyle Lefty Beard.
Well, you can go have fun with that, sir. Before you guys went out, I just had to do a little bit of research. At failure.
And Ricky, master of all things horror Bosma.
I know a few things.
So, boys.
What would you like to talk about?
Obviously, one of the big things that's starting to make the news was Netflix did a special on the Cecil.
Yep.
Again, I find it more and more interesting that as we are getting into our strides and everything else, the algorithm for me has definitely changed.
Yeah.
As far as Netflix suggestions, Amazon suggestions, this, that, the other. And you're like, I thought, oh man, I'm uncovering all these old documents. Man, they're all new.
Yeah.
And there's something to that. They're starting to, more and more people are getting into these subcategories, pseudosciences, whatever you want to call them.
Well, the more it becomes available to people, the more.
Yeah, and
Well, and especially ever since lockdown, everybody's stuck inside. They found something to do, and all of a sudden that thing that they were like, well, I'm going to look into it maybe someday. They found that someday.
Rabbit hole. Number one.
oh yeah, like they just, well, and again, untapped market that I think a lot of these places are starting to realize, like, oh, hey, we do, like, look how big Ghost Hunters was.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean, and what's funny to me is, like, I was looking at the Cecil and again doing the list. Cosmopolitan has done something on this. Rolling Stones is covered this. It's again all over. It is currently labeled, well, not so much anymore since it's closed, but the most haunted spot in LA.
Yeah, I could see that.
Now, going into some of the facts of the case, though.
Yeah, so I watched an interview with Amy Price, and I think it was like 15-minute horror or something like that. And it was just, quick questions. Hey, what happened? Well, one of the questions, it was, hey, what'd you see? Did you see anything paranormal there? And she was like, well, as many horrible things as I saw there, like, none of it really stood out. She's like, it's not that I don't believe in ghosts or anything. She's like, but in all the time that I spent in there, didn't really see anything.
Well, you gotta look at it like this. Is she open? Is she receptive? Or is she not?
Well, no,
because there are people out there that have 100% made up their mind that ghosts are not real.
Right.
Paranormal isn't a thing.
Which we've talked about many times, that
right.
If you aren't open to it, it doesn't exist if you don't believe.
Right.
That would make things so much easier.
Just tune it all out.
Yeah.
Act like it's not real.
No more ghosts.
I hate to tell you,
that shadow in the corner isn't trying to talk to me.
You cannot believe and be as skeptical as you want, but Ricky and I are going to overpower you every time.
Yeah. It's just too much, man.
But no, like, she is in every interview, every document. Obviously, she was there for, what, 80? No, she wasn't there for 80 years.
10 years.
10 years.
2007 to 2017.
Head, something was 80. That number sticks.
80 deaths.
We'll figure it out.
80 was her quoted number of what she saw in her time there in those 10 years.
Yeah.
How many times? And again, is she playing for the camera?
Oh, see, and that was another thing that she put out on the interview. Was the lady asked, well, you said that there were 80, you witnessed 80 deaths, and she's like, well, at the same time, there was a lot of very old people that lived there. 70s, 80s, bad health, no health care, no insurance, no nothing, and...
Right, not every death is going to be suspicious.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that, like, when she's covering for... I'm not going to call Rolling Stone a cosmetologist or, like, any news organization that comes up to her a spoof piece, but it seems to me when she knows she's not talking to a mainstream source, she will elaborate more on some of these things.
Yeah.
But, like, when a big source comes to her... She is clammed up about what happens. And to me, that means there's a whole lot more that she probably doesn't want to talk about, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, if you
At
went
this point,
in
you're
there,
probably over it.
right, went in there day in and day out and dealt with those type of things, and not just necessarily in the hotel, but around the hotel.
Well, you had Ramirez there.
Yeah.
Which, again, Netflix doesn't cover.
Yeah.
And as we were kind of discussing before we started, one of the articles I was reading today was very much about how the Netflix special severely underplayed the severity of what happened there. I mean, you had 2 serial killers, you had the Black Dahlia go through there.
That place is just, it's horrible, man. Like, all just the misery alone, the poverty, everything around that place, just constant misery.
You think of the age. So right here it's saying it's founded in 1924. It was a 19-floor, 700-room hotel.
Yep.
And it was originally built in the middle of LA for this go-to hotspot. Let's attract everybody. And in the end, I mean, that's what it did. It attracted everybody.
Now more so than it before, because so many people are now interested in the paranormal aspect of it, and the Alyssa Lamb case, and so on and so forth, that, you know, it's far more well known than it's ever been.
But like right after the Depression, though, that's when they started really hitting back their prices. So obviously, the class of people that you then attract is going to start going down. You're not going to get your business types. You're not going to get this unless they're...
You're trying to fill 700 rooms.
Well,
700 rooms. Do you understand how big that is on today's aspect?
Especially for a hotel.
Like day in and day out.
That's hard for an apartment complex.
Right. Book this day in and day out.
They're cutting their prices down. They also do weekly rates. They started doing monthly rate. Kind of separated to again, they have long-term people. They had allowed homeless in there. That's when they became Skid Row.
Well, when they became Skid Row is because in '75 the city of LA decided they were going to employ this containment program.
Right. Well,
So that way, feeding of the homeless, those type of things, the healthcare, all that stuff will be centrally located. Well, it just so happens that that's 4 blocks surrounding this hotel. So how can it not be engulfed in this, you know, poverty, this misery?
Right.
So like another thing that we were talking about, like the Netflix, they were talking top 2 floors were your residents, which would make sense in my mind because you don't want special guests or hourly rates. Like, you're going to put an hourly rate on a certain floor.
Well, the people that bring the quick money, they're going to want to keep
Right.
separate from the people that they have to once a month get a paycheck from,
Whereas-
or however long, once a week, whatever
Well,
it is.
And normally you put high dollar people on a top floor so that they don't have everybody and their mother coming through and seeing you. You are away from everybody else and this, that, the other. So if Netflix is saying they're on the top 2, mine says they're on the bottom 2, and then according to one of the long-term residents, he's saying if you went above the 6th floor, you better be packing.
Right.
He said you don't go there. That's the hourly rate. That's the low budgets. The people who don't want their name there paying in cash.
Yep.
And that's where I imagine that again, Ramirez and whatever the other serial killer name.
He actually
was.
stayed on the 14th floor, is what they say.
Yeah. So during her tenure, Price said there were more 80 deaths. Again, going to this article, she's saying deaths.
Right.
Glamming it up a little bit. Whereas murders, probably again, reported murders,
So-
I would believe 60.
So let's go with overdose as a death.
Right. That's not.
That's not a murder. That's not a...
But again, you're averaging 3 911 calls a day, a shift for her.
You're in the middle of Skid Row, one of the highest crime rated areas in all the world. You know, how can you not have the cops there constantly?
But again, like there's also murders that happen there. But now you're looking at dead bodies they find there. Okay, well that didn't really. We find it didn't happen here. So now we're saving the name of the hotel.
Right.
That's not a murder that happened here. It's just where the body was dumped.
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about this with Bridgewater, Gables, and all these. Did the building attract the murderers, killers, whatever you want to call them, because of how it's laid out and everything else? Or is there something else that because of all the messed up stuff happening, is there something else that draws you to here?
Well, yeah. I mean, if that's like you believe in misery is evil and whatnot, then obviously it's going to draw you to a place like that. Because you have everyday suffering from just average, everyday Joes, man. They wake up not knowing where their next meal is coming from, where they're going to sleep, if they're going to survive the day. That's constant misery. So how is that for the energy in that area?
Right. You're down. I mean, you're bottomed. Again, right now it's very hard to just open up Google and say haunted stories about the Cecil because it's all
It's cluttered.
cluttered right now.
Well, the thing about it is, it's not really so much about an actual haunting there. It's about all the misery that's been there.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't think I've actually heard of an actual haunting.
Oh, there's
Other than, like, you know, obviously they see things, apparitions and whatnot, but like an actual, like, one they can put a name to or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's again, I couldn't find anything because I'm telling you, the first 10 pages of Google are shocked, full of Netflix.
Well, that's what it is.
Responses to Netflix and this, that, the other. So, kind of not the right time, but at the same time, like it.
But
it's number one for a reason.
But that's what happens when something large like that picks up on a relatively, you know,
well, and again,
normal.
After Miss Lamb went there, and she was actually found.
Right.
The reservations went through the roof to where they almost didn't close.
Yeah.
But I was reading that they said, I want to say the last 5 deaths that happened there were people fell from the roof. Now, after Eloise.
Let me check my statistics real quick, sir. The last 5 are. Well, actually, Goldie was one of those.
Right.
The last 5. So she was raped and murdered. 75 fell from the building. 92 unknown male. Out the window, not sure if he was pushed.
Right.
Or if he jumped. So either way, that one's still open. You have Alyssa Lamb in 2013. And in 2015, you also have another unknown male found in the same state as the one prior. Not sure if he was pushed. Not sure if he jumped.
But to my mind, you've had how many people from the top of the building?
Lots of fell from the buildings.
At some point, do you think they start locking windows, putting guards around the top of it?
No,
so
because technically they need a fire escape,
Right.
so
But
they
you
have
can
to
get a
leave it open.
Fire escape without.
But yeah, you would gate up. You wouldn't be able to gate up the actual fire escapes on the end, but you may be able to do the rooms.
Either that or set an alarm.
Because as far as my knowledge is, it's the end of the hallways is where the fire escape was.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like you think about our hotels here now, granted, it's not 700.
700
rooms.
flipping rooms, man.
I'm just saying, the top of the building, at some point, you'd think you'd start putting like a gate or fencing around it, and then like, okay, here's the fire, you don't escape.
Right.
To where, or putting safety nets around the fire escape, or something, fall protection.
It's kind of nuts, man, because I think there's like 7 or 8. Let me count them real quick here. You got 9 fell from the buildings.
Right.
And
Now, they're not all necessarily from the top, though.
right. Just fell from the building.
Right. Which, let's face it, you're above 5th. You're done.
Yeah.
But, like,
Even
you're
about 2
also,
or 3.
if you're above 7, you're probably at that point to where, did he fall or was he pushed? If you're above
6.
10, you're definitely like,
Well, let's go with the former resident's, statement of the 6th floor, because obviously the 6th floor on up is where the seediest people were.
right.
And that's just it. Like, they can't tell from what floor some of these ones, fell from because they just find them laying in the alleyway next to it.
Oh, big one.
I was just saying, a couple of these guys, they don't know. They have no idea if he was pushed, jumped, whatever.
Right.
They just found him
Well, and being at
laid out in the alleyway.
being at Skid Row, do you think the cops are going to show up and investigate it? Or do you say, oh, come show up, take away the body, look for any, again, distinct signs of foul play? Okay, we didn't find anything.
Well, once again, if they don't know who they're looking for, how much effort are they really going to put into it? That's just another unknown.
Well, and
Well, that
You
they
know.
have no idea what they're about to stumble upon either, because of all the history that's there. It's like, oh well, I'm gonna do the bare minimum real quick because I don't want to get caught or be near any of these guys,
well,
or
like,
happen to.
so in the
Well,
90s is when Jack Underwood, Underwood was there.
Yeah.
Where he actually killed at the hotel.
Yeah.
You don't know if you're walking into that. You don't know if you got some cracked out homeless guy that's like just going to start popping off, or maybe you're a little on the believer side. You don't know if this place is haunted.
Yeah.
And they say, I was listening to a Ramirez tape the other day, the actual Night Stalker audiobook.
Yeah.
And the part of that is the reason why he was able to go so long, because he's at this point kind of rated number 2 under Bundy.
That's a matter of opinion, sir.
Only because Bundy went longer.
Yeah.
I'll give you props back to Ramirez.
Yeah.
So his body count was 18. They recently just linked a death of a 9-year-old girl that was actually his first.
That sounds about right.
Because they had some chick, and then they're like, oh no, this is, I think, was him.
Right.
Now again, because of the way he did things, can you say, oh look, this random murder that's unsolved, I think that was him?
Well, yeah. I mean,
who knows? Because he was able to constantly change the way he did things, the cops wouldn't believe that it was the same person.
right.
And then you have the fact that the sheriff's department is not going to talk to the county's not going to talk to the city. It's not that they weren't necessarily able to do their job, like you find with so many of the other ones where it's just understaffed. We're not really going to look into it because, a lot of the reasons why you see a lot of serial killers that were getting away is because they are in areas where the department is so understaffed. But like, are they, when you got Ramirez going around and you got, again, all the problems that LA starts coming up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, are you really going to, again, spend a lot of time at 10,000 homeless people living in a hotel?
No, why would you spend a lot of time there? And granted, that was almost a perfect place for him to hide.
Right.
Because it's like he was amongst his own people, the derelicts, the scum of the earth, per se.
The drug addicts, hookers aplenty. I mean, again, and once it's that broken window theory too, where once you start attracting a certain type, if it's not cleaned up then you just degrade from there. And not to say that these people didn't have lives or anything else, and call him degrading them, but like the level of security you have going there, the class of that hotel,
right,
bottomed quick.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'd like to mention also like the mental illness,
right,
in that area, because a lot of times people were institutionalized and it's ran its course, and well, we're gonna put you out there on the street. Now you got nowhere to go, so now you're a homeless schizophrenic living on the streets of LA.
Like, because obviously the serial killers, murders, everything in here, that's a huge history. But I think what kind of brought the Cecil into the spotlight was Miss Lamb's disappearance.
Yeah. Once again, you have a homeless person that comes up missing. Who's really looking for him? To where this was a case of a college student from Canada. Her parents were looking for her. So that brought the police's attention to this case compared to, them just finding some rando, in the alleyway. Nobody's looking for them. So how much effort are they really going to put into it?
Yeah, this time they actually had to investigate. Like, it was somebody that was not from that area, not from that part of town, not even from this country.
She was just visiting, right? Like,
Traveling.
She was just traveling. And did they say what brought her to the Cecil? Was it?
She said she wanted to see the Golden Coast, which is California. So she started in San Diego. Her next stop on the way up was LA. She wanted to go to San Francisco, see the 3 big major cities out that way for the most part. She wanted to experience their lifestyle, at this point in her life. She was also a vlogger on top of that, so that may have something to do with it. Maybe give her an opportunity, a little content to put out there. I visited this city. You know what I mean?
But at the same time, she almost used that blog for it looked like it was just a spot for her to say what's really going on without having to feel bad about it or feel any sort of way. Is just putting it out there. People will respond without ever knowing who you are.
Right.
But as far as what happened, there's this girl. They've got video footage recording of her doing some kind of odd behavior, and then she goes missing. And it was how many weeks later? 3.
I think 3 weeks.
I mean, she was fairly decomposed.
Yeah, roughly about 3 weeks, I think.
That they found her in the water tower. But again, they only really found her because the water was turning colors and this, that, the other.
Yeah.
And Kyle, you had mentioned that, like, when asked if what sanitation means, and like, Price was still backdrafting the questions during the interview, even when they had asked her, "Hey, what's it yet?"
Yeah, because in that interview they asked her just straight up, "Well, what did you guys do? Like once the body was out, like how did you take care of the water system? Because everybody had to drink that water." And she basically was like, "Well," and she stuttered all over the place, everywhere.
Busted.
And then she came up. Well, obviously we cleaned it. They tested it. They didn't find anything.
Dude.
And
Horse pucky.
Right.
I'm sorry, man, but like, you got a body decaying in your hotels.
even the people
3
said that it tasted
weeks.
funny.
Because, like,
It turned black and smelled funny. What more do you need?
Right.
Like,
Well, I wonder if she was talking about, after the testing or whatever was done, like after they drained the tank, I believe, and cleaned it.
yeah, that's not quite how that works.
at the same time, with my limited knowledge of, that kind of area, when you think, like, India, they got the same situation where they don't have a lot of water coming to their buildings, right? So the reason why they get sick a lot of the times is because you got, like, monkeys taking baths in your frickin' water supply.
Yes.
Seeing as LA doesn't let people water their lawns for more than 10 minutes a day, I gotta believe draining that happened.
Right. They also have to believe that decomposing body is probably going to do a little more to my water supply than a baboon butt.
Yeah.
Just thinking.
Well, maybe that's part of those mysterious 80 deaths. Like,
Yeah, I would feel some sort of way if I found out I drank that, like,
Baboon butt?
no.
now,
I would have actually been more okay with that than a decaying person.
Yeah, because, I mean, at this point, you're talking should be major lawsuits. 'Cause I can promise you.
yeah. But at the same time,
Promise you.
think about the people that are staying there. Do you want your name in court?
Well, let's say.
Yeah, regardless of what happened.
Well, let's talk about a certain little couple that was on said documentary.
Okay.
That actually came forward and said, "Look, we were standing right there. We were the ones that turned on the water and called down there, face on film." So at that point, I'm thinking,
Yeah, they even physically felt
we need to sign some paperwork here because
Well, and again,
this can go
a
away
few of
nice
them-
and quiet.
Is that why they finally closed? Who knows? But
That's-
like, there's a few. I gotta believe there's a few people that were like, "Hey, would you like to be a part of this class action lawsuit?" I mean, there's probably quite a few of them that are like, "Don't you dare put my name on paper."
Well, let's say some of the less fortunate ones that were staying there at that time. Don't you believe that they would like a slice of that pie and maybe be a little more fortunate in life?
But if you're also a longtime resident there and you see the state of that hotel, you pretty much know that what are you gonna get?
If it's enough to get me a house and get me the hell out of this hotel.
As long as I don't have to stay at the Cecil anymore,
Right.
could you put me up for a week at the other place?
Yeah, I bet you what the hotel did was like, "Hey, so how about y'all live here for free? Just don't say anything."
Would you though?
And maybe that's, well, okay, so
You just found out there's a dead girl in your water supply, and you're questioning whether they cleaned it or not.
let's take it
Hey, you
this
can
route.
stay here for the next month for free. That's a no for me, dog.
Let's take it this route. Let's say Netflix is their damage control to this situation because maybe they have plans on opening this up in the future for something else or continue with the tours in it.
I want to say that they're
Well,
pulling
they
down.
plan on opening it.
That's what I'm saying. So
The one dude said it was
If
worth
I
about
wanted
$80
people to
million.
come- if I wanted people to come stay at my hotel, no matter your reason for coming here, if it's because Ramirez was here or because the Alyssa Lamb case, whatever your reason for coming here is, I'm going to do my best to say, it's not quite what it seemed, people. It's really not that bad. And that's kind of what I feel like that Netflix did to it. You know?
Oh, yeah. So, guests at the Cecil, which has now been rebranded Stay on Main, sued the
Yep.
hotel over the incident, and Lamb's parents filed in a separate suit later that year and was dismissed.
I would like the number of his lawyer.
All right, so this is from News Channel 4 ABC. Negligence lawsuit dismissed after downtown LA hotel water tank death. Judge dismissed the negligence lawsuit Monday filed by the parents of a Canadian student against the downtown Los Angeles hotel where their daughter drowned on the rooftop water tank in 2013.
Could somebody send me his number, please? In case I'm ever in LA and may have an issue.
I see you forgot to cross your T when you signed your name here. We're going to have to file for dismissal.
Holy smokes, man.
What's more interesting, let's, keep it on this Lamb thing. For the part I've been waiting for quite some time, since almost we started. We are currently of kind of 2.5 minds on the subject of Miss Lamb.
Yeah.
Some of us like to think that it's a clear-cut case. No hocus pocus, oogie boogie, or anything else.
Yeah.
Whereas Ricky, why don't you tell us your take on what happened?
For me, it's one of those scenarios where there's just too many unanswered questions. Yeah, you can explain away a lot of things. And yes, that documentary did put a lot of things to rest in theory, if you believe that's how it really went down. Okay?
Allegedly.
So, let's look at it from a different perspective. Let's say a certain someone on this panel here brought up maybe there was some sort of foreign substance introduced to her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And maybe, let's say she took it on Friday. Almost completely out of her system to the point where, untraceable. Then her psychosis kicks in.
Right.
Which pushes her over the edge. So at that point, let's say she was unwilling for this substance to be introduced to her. Because it's not like she was by herself in that room. She was bunking with other people.
Right.
So, if this was introduced to her, she wasn't aware of it, she had such a bad reaction to said substance that it finally made that break and pushed her to this point. So is there somebody out there that is still technically responsible for this?
I agree. I think the way you're reacting, again, where you're stopping at multiple levels, you're looking out, you get back in, this, that, the other. The way, again, the video evidence I see, it looks like someone's after her, which we've discussed. How do you open that big of a can by yourself? Why would you get naked by yourself? Why would you... Self-drowning.
Right. Why would you follow the footsteps of people from prior years who fell from said building?
But wait, Ricky, isn't there alarms on the door?
Well, at the same time, there was one of the YouTubers, especially on that documentary, that said, well, I went up there and I checked it out, but when we opened the door, there was no alarm that went off. And the general manager said that, well, technically there's an alarm that is supposed to go off and it's only be able to be shut off with a maintenance man with a key.
Yep.
But this YouTuber said, well, I went after that and went to open up the door and, well, there was no alarm.
But wait, Kyle, isn't there supposed to be alarms on these water towers?
Nothing on the water tower itself.
Right.
Isn't that the to gain entry? Isn't that supposed to be locked as well?
Should have been.
Yeah.
As you
So maybe not an alarm, but some sort of locking mechanism.
Right.
Some sort of security mechanism, yeah.
Correct.
Like you said earlier, whoever the hotel's lawyer was, give me that number, baby.
Absolutely, man.
Because if there's no foul play, if there's someone working there or whatever else, if this was legitimately a suicide, where she packed up her stuff all nice and neat and she had a psychosis break and somehow figured out how to drown herself.
Her stuff wasn't packed up all nice and neat.
I thought they said it was folded.
Nope. It was
In the water, in the bottom of the tank.
Oh.
yeah. So this is where everything got real weird for me. So when the maintenance guy went up there, he said the lid was open. The lid was already open when he went up there.
And they didn't find her. Well,
They didn't look.
Is
I
this
never
the
looked up
same maintenance man that possibly had a key to said door?
I've heard of said keys that could do that. Very possible. Your average maintenance guy's probably got a key. He's got to do some kind of work, PM, whatever else.
Whatever it is.
Again, the fact that it's open and you don't look in there. Now, however, bodies that are dead a certain amount of time sink
Well,
and don't float until, again, a certain period after.
Face
found
up,
24
float.
days later.
Floating face up, not face down.
She was found
Shenanigans.
24 days later, so she was technically at that point because she was pretty bad when we
Wait,
found
so
her.
I'm saying I could see where they could miss it.
The maintenance guy was told to go up there was to check it out because people were complaining about the funny tasting water. And that was because she'd already decomposed for 24 days by the time the water started to taste weird.
Right.
So the guy went up there and checked, and he's like, well, when I went up there to check, the thing was open, and she was...
Oh, so it's been sitting open
Yeah.
for... And the cops...
Yeah.
Man.
The cops never looked.
Right, I'm just gonna walk by
Shenanigans.
this open hole when I'm searching for
Shenanigans.
somebody.
Which, again, in a city water, if this is your main source of water, and you walk by that, and that beast is open, no.
You're looking for somebody.
You're going to close it.
You don't look in every nook and cranny. Let's be honest about that, man.
And you're going to close
The
it.
dog even had a hit on the window.
Yeah.
The exit.
On the fire escape.
The Cecil Hotel is inspired the American Horror Story hotel season.
Yep.
And I want to say that not The Ring, but
Dark water.
Dark Water is also based on this.
That's almost her story to a T. Minus a child compared to...
So, shenanigans aside, I mean, like, again, there's foul play. This thing stinks in my mind. However,
Almost as bad as the water. Boom, boom, boom.
you know what? I'm leaving that in because that was so horrible. It's the listeners must know. However, the other half of the brain on this side of the conversation goes to why we're covering it. Ricky, tell me about the elevator game.
Well, I mean, we've talked about it. We have yet to talk about these games, but it's a pretty well-known game out there where basically you press a certain sequence of buttons on an elevator, and in return, it's supposed to take you to an alternate dimension.
Right. Which, again, if you know that game,
Mm-hmm.
and this kind of goes along with where you see conspiracies where they're like, I see connections where they're not really existing.
Right.
But, like, if you know this game and you see, okay, she goes in the elevator. She's going in and out. She's pushing different buttons in a certain sequence.
Nope. Doing boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, but I personally never played the game. I hear rumors of how this game is to be played.
But then she kept the doors open.
Is that what you're supposed to do? Because at some point, somebody gets on. And if you're looking for this person to get on, it is very possible you could see where she's playing that game.
Not to mention, at this particular time that she's in this elevator, I don't know how many guests they had there, how many people they had there, but at some point, I gotta believe somebody wanted to get on a different floor and push one of those little rings in that X amount of time. Now, if there's 20 people in this 700-room hotel, maybe not.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause the door was only open for 2 minutes.
Well,
And that was
do we know that for sure?
But again,
They timed it.
No, you seen what they let you see. The
there's
whole
a
footage
difference.
is not there.
Yeah.
You know, they give you a 2.5 minute time frame as all the footage.
Yeah, because
Period.
I want to say the YouTube video of her is a lot longer than what the documentary has.
I mean, there are longer sets of this footage out there. I have yet to see them because they're pretty well kept.
Well, that's again, too, where if you're a YouTuber or you want to make a story out of this, do you, quote-unquote, doctor your video to make it look longer, shorter, or, again, fit your narrative? That's a huge problem in media these days.
Yeah, because I'm not 100% sure if you can actually find the original footage that was released by the LA County Police Department.
Before Netflix did their thing, I want to say yes.
So, now, is it possible those doors stayed open because she hit that button? Sure.
Well, again, like when you're playing the elevator game, it's supposedly like you're supposed to hit these series of buttons. At some point, somebody gets on, opens you. And originally, what we had thought before the documentary, before a lot of the research came out recently,
Yeah.
that lid was big. There was no way this little girl was going to open that up. There was no way to get on the roof. There was no way this, that, the other. It was kind of like she appeared there.
Right.
In my mind, it's still kind of like she appeared there.
There's just so much. There's so many facts that have came out recently because of this. You know, prior to this, there's so much speculation. Now, if you believe this special, a lot of those things were put to rest. But that's once again having faith in a sheriff's department or county department, whatever the case may be, that didn't bother to look at an open lid when you're looking for somebody.
Right. Walk
That's
right
hard,
by it.
Yeah, that's hard for me to put a lot of faith in what they say.
Well, like I've been reading a lot of like the timelines because that's one of the biggest things coming out right now.
Yeah.
Here's the timeline of all this thing, and again, like you just the amount of crap that's just happened at this hotel. Like again, you look at did the hotel invite this, or was there some kind of energy, whatever you want to call it, bringing this in?
Well, the hotel was pretty much doomed from the start. It just absolutely opened up at the wrong time. Okay? Yeah. So you got to figure, built in 24, opened in 27. Depression went from 29 to 33. So that's, in that 6-year, 7-year time span right there, that place was automatically fail.
Okay, so like, I'm looking at a picture of that water tower. One of those is open. You might not see it. I could see that. Like, however, there's also 4 of them, but that's a big lid.
Yeah.
No, it's. They said.
Oh, it's one like a small side door.
Yep.
Yes.
Still, dude, come on, like.
It wasn't your line.
Like, look at that picture. She is clearly hiding from something.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Now let's take it to the other side of the coin.
If she's tripping her nuts off, there's a lot of scary things that happen.
Or let's take it to the other side of the coin with the negligence on the hotel itself. Okay. Maybe this did go down how the police say it did. Why was it not locked? Why was the door, you know what I mean?
Right.
The alarm not on the door. Either way, that hotel should be liable. You would think. So because they were actually liable, are they willing to sweep it under the rug with such, with said police department? So it all goes away because there were so many failures, so much negligence on both sides.
I like this one. In 1962, after a fight with her husband, Pauline Outen, she jumped from the window on the 7th floor.
Yep.
Hotel and landed on a pedestrian below, killing them both. So there's two, there's 2-year
His
deaths.
name was George I'm gonna butcher it. Giannini?
But, again, you're looking at the first one, too, where they're looking at this homicide, and it doesn't say how long were the very first one, how long they were actually looking. But, again, search for missing kid. Body found at the hotel.
Giannini? I don't know how who would pronounce it, but if somebody knows the pronunciation of that, please correct me.
But, like, you can see, too, like, even with the Black Dahlia, when she went missing, she had reportedly stayed here at that hotel right before she died. So, is there a curse? Is there something going on with this? There is definitely an energy in that area. And again, for Rolling Stone and let's call them non-paranormal magazines and stuff like that to come out and still call you the #1 haunted place in LA, that has power behind it.
The first 4 deaths in this hotel. Let me give you a little history on these guys here. 1927, the year it opened. Suicide, gunshot to the face. First 4 people to die there. And it gets better. Let's talk about a few of these methods. So let's talk about the first 4 deaths that took place in this. hotel. All 4 suicides, right? Suicide number 1, urine open, gunshot wound to the face. Suicide number 2, poison. You can't find a better way to go than poison yourself? I would think that'd be a fairly miserable way to go.
Well, what kind of poison was it? Like drug poison?
Not specified.
They found capsules.
Suicide number 3 in 1932. Another gunshot wound to the face. Suicide number 4, 1934. Slit his own throat with a razor.
That's what easy for me to do.
Not to mention Sergeant Louise Borden. He was a military man.
Yeah, maybe some depression.
Maybe a little way to go.
Kind of like some of those guys that end up shooting themselves in the back of the head.
That's the thing about it. The really messed up thing about this is these aren't the only poisonings in this place.
Right.
I have 1, 2, 3 other people on this list.
Right.
That chose their way to go was ingesting poison.
I would imagine that, like, as you get into your more reputable customers, there's probably a way for the person at the front desk to get you certain amenities.
At this time, though, in the 30s, 20s.
Oh, you don't think that guy had access?
I'm sure, but I would think that it would be a little. Well, maybe it was a little easier to get because there was less laws and restrictions on things.
Well, and moonshiners,
cyanide,
and all that.
Yeah. So maybe it was a little easier.
Arsenic.
Yeah.
That's all over.
But you start getting into the 50s, the 60s, then you start seeing all these falls from the building.
Well, yeah, less traceable. Now, were those original few, are those closed or are those still unsolved?
What? These are closed.
All of them are closed?
All except for the very last couple. Well, I would say they were closed just because they were ruled a certain way.
But I'm saying murderer caught. Oh, no, because they're still suicides.
These are all accidental deaths in theory.
Allegedly.
Right. Suicides, falling from the building. And this goes on and on and on and on. You don't actually see an actual murder at this place listed until 1964, which would be Pigeon Goldie.
Right.
The former telephone operator in the 60s that was raped, murdered, and left.
And
now,
this is before Ramirez still, too.
Yeah, this is in 64. This was even before the whole Skid Row revitalization, whatever the case may be. Not saying they weren't still surrounding that place at the time. It just wasn't converted.
Well, everybody knows that serial killers didn't come to America until the 80s.
Right?
Which, again, I really want to branch out into that kind of thing, but continue on.
And then you start getting into things like, towards the end, like I said, you have Elisa's case. And then the last 2 beyond that, both unknown males in their 20s found laying dead in the alleyway. Now, they didn't say they were suicide. They didn't say anything other than the fact that they were laying there and they could tell they fell from the building, whether on their own accord or with a little help.
Well, I'm not going to say forensics wasn't up to snuff at that point, too, but, like, telling the difference between a fall and a push at that point. I don't know that they necessarily had the forensics to tell the difference.
Sir, the most recent one was 2015.
I stand by my statement that maybe they don't have the resources.
In 2015, sir?
LA County Sheriff's Department might be...
Clearly, they weren't capable of looking at an open container while searching for somebody. So I could see where maybe their forensics were lacking.
And again, I got nothing. That's negligence, dude. You didn't do your job. But again, like, if they really did look into it and, like, okay, it was a fall. All right, I'll give you that. But come on, man. You're getting an awful lot. Now, it has since closed, because we did want to look into, hey, is it possible we do an overnight in the Cecil and then drive to Skinwalker? But apparently that's no-go zone for the area right now. No,
Well,
you know, I wouldn't want to stay in California right now anyway.
yeah. I'm kind of good on heading out west for right now, but
A lot of fire going on.
a lot of issues going on out that way.
You're fired, sir.
We can only hope. So, with that, I think it's a great job today.
I think this is a
That's
perfect
good.
end to part 1 of this because I don't believe this is over, sir.
Oh, I think we could definitely find some more. Make sure to check us out on Twitter at Weird Boys Cast, on Instagram, Weird Boys Podcast, on the same, Facebook, all those good ones. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please make sure to share. Get us out there, guys. Last month, you guys rose to the occasion. We got to 100 subscribers, like, almost overnight. We were all floored.
And I feel like this is going to be as good as, if not better, than the last episode.
For sure, man. Like, this is gonna be a lot of fun.
And so, like the video, give us a share. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do so. Even, I would say, click that notification bell so you can get more Weird Boys time. Because you know how much you guys want it. And we love y'all. So,
Thanks a lot.
thank you.
Come again.
Thank you.
And stay
Stay
weird.
weird.